Hello, my friend. From this time on, we will implement the authentication function. So far, we've done for this only for the board module. So inside this board module, we can create the board and we can bring the board. But we've never done for this authentication. So it's now time for the authentication module. So when we made this board controller and board entity and board service, we spent quite a lot of time because we didn't know anything about controller entity and service, but now we knew a little bit about that. So we try to make them us controller, user entity, and us service quite quickly this time. So to create the modules on controller and user service, this one, us controller, us service, and user entity like that, we will use the CLI again. So come to our text editor. First, we need to make a us module. So nest g module us. So now we created this us module and we want to create us controller. So nest g controller us no spec. And we will just created this us controller. We want this us service created. Nest g service us no spec. So now it's time to create an entity for a user, this user entity. So the user is required because it is to authenticate the user. So let's create a user entity for user data. So first we need to create a file to write that source code, this one. First we, inside this us folder, we will create the file name user entity and ts. In here we need to define the user entity. So if you see in here, we try to declare this one is entity and we need the ID and username and password for this user. So we declare this entity and export class user extends base entity ID number, and we also need the username column, and this one is string, and we need password string, and ID is a primary generated column, and username is just normal column. Even for password, normal column, like this. And then we also need to create this repository or user repository. So first, create the user repository file, and then write the source code. So when we make the repository, we always need to extend this repository class, and then we need to specify which repository. Like we need to put this user entity because we are control this user entity inside this repository. So come to our text editor and we need to make the file name user repository.ts, and in here, sorry for here, like it has to be just export, not export. I'm sorry for that. So and we need to keep making repository. So entity repository user entity and export class and user repository and extends and repository class and put the user entity again. So we made the repository, and we also need to use this user repository anywhere. So we need to register this user repository like this inside this us module. So import type ORM module for feature user repository. We need to register inside the us module here, or import type ORM module and for feature and user repository like this. And we also need to do repository injection. So we made the repository and we want to use the repository inside the auth service. So we need to inject the repository in the auth service. So come to our user service, auth service. We want to use that user repository inside the auth service. So here, inside this constructor, we can do dependency injection. So inject repository, user repository, and private, and user repository, and user repository. And we need to put the constructor body. We created this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. We are quite ready for making the authentication feature. So thank you for watching this video and see you later. Hello my friend. In this time, we will implement the user registration function. So sign up feature. We are going to use the repository panel. So we need to put the user information inside a database when we create the user. So we do that part inside the repository. That is the repository pattern. So when we create the user, we need to get the username and password. By using the username and password, we are going to make the user instance, and by using the user instance, we will put it inside the save method, so we can save that user inside the database. So we go to user repository first, here, async, and create user as credential DTO and as credential DTO. But actually we didn't make the as credential DTO yet. So first we are going to make that DTO. So as credentials DTO and TS. So here we need to define that DTO as credentials DTO, and this one username string and password and string. We will also put some validation condition in here later. So we need to bring it again as credential DTO again. This one's return will be promise and void and const. We need the username and password as credential and const user discrete, and by using the username and password. By using the user instance, we will save that, save and user. So now we can make the user, and we also need to bring this one inside the service. So we try to do that inside this repository. We need to bring it from the service, and we also need to bring it from controller again. So first, we need to go to this service, user service, maybe also service. Here, async sign up as credential detail and as credential detail and promise and void and return, and this user repository and create user and as credential. We also need to go to the as controller here, and to use this service inside the controller, we also need to do the dependency injection for this service inside this controller. To do that, like constructor and private and as ser service and also service like this, and post. And when we sign up, we need to use this post request and sign up a body and us credentials and us credential detail and promise void and return this us service and sign up and us credential detail. So we need to bring the body again, body like this. Ah, we also need to put this one. So okay, so now we can create a user. So we can go to Postman and try to create the user like local host 3000 and us and sign up, and then we need to give this uh, username and password here, username, and username is username1, and then password is password1 like this. So first we need to turn on our application npm run start dev, and I'm going to click this send button. So we go to our PC admin, and here I'm going to refresh it, and you can see this user table appear, and then I'm going to click this button, and you can see username 1 and password 1 appear. So thank you for watching this video, and see you later. Hello my friend. In this time, we are going to do the user data validation. So when creating a user, we will put some condition for each column so that we can check validity such as the desired name length and the password length. So when we do the validation, we will use this create validator module. We already used it when we make the board detail. So even for user detail, we are also going to use this class validator. So to put some conditions for this detail, so we can use it like this. Well, if we want this username to be string, we can put this is string decorator. If we want this username's character to be less than 4 characters, so we can just put this min length. And if we want to use a regular expression, we can just put regular expression inside this match decorator. So if we come to our DTO here, DTO here, we can put that decorator. If we want this to be the string, this username, and if we want this user characters length becomes longer than 4 characters, min length 4 and max length is 20 and is string and same as above here, like, and then one more matches only the English character and numbers are allowed for this password. So do it like this, A to Z and A to Z and 1 to 9, 0 to 9, and we can just do it like this. And we also need to put this validation pipe. So when a request comes into a handler in the controller, we need to put a validation pipe to check it according to the validity condition in the detail. So we want to put this validation pipe here as controller and inside this body. So validation pipe. So, you know, this one is built-in pipes, right? And so we need to try it by using the postman. So these characters length needs to be less than longer than 4 characters, but if we have just 3 characters, so I'm going to send it. So you can see here username must be longer than or equal to 4 characters. So it has a bad request. So if I add one more character here, so now we don't get any error as a response. So that means this validation pipe is working well. So thank you for watching this video and see you later. Hello my friend, we are going to give our username a unique value. So in this time, when creating a user, we will implement a function that sends an error if we try to use a username whose username is already used. So uh, if we see our database, we already have a username is just username1. But if we try to create the user with username 1 again, nothing actually happened. But we actually don't have this to be allowed because the username 1 is already inside the database. So this username is same. So it doesn't have to be like this. We need to occur the error. So there are 2 ways to implement this feature. So the first feature is that in the repository, use the find one method to check if there is already an ID with the same username, and if not, to save the data. However, this method requires processing the database twice, but this is not actually good because we want to process the database once. So we are going with the second way. If you see here at the database level, if there is a user with the same name, it throws an error. So to implement in this second way, we can just put only this unique decorator inside this user entity. It is way easier way. So if we come to our entity, like user entity, we can just put this unique decorator and then put the any column you want it to be unique. For now, we only username to be unique, so we put the user name in here. We don't want this password to be unique, so we are not going to do it like that. So we are trying it. We are trying to put this username again. Click it. So now we got the internal server error. So it works well because we already have a username 1 inside the database. So this unique decorator works really well. But if you see this one, we are getting this internal server error and status code is just a 500. This is not actually ideal because when we try to make a user, if that username is already exists, it is better to say like this username already exists. So you need to change. You need to use the different username, rather than just saying internal server error. So the reason why we get the internal server error is we didn't put the try catch statement. So first we need to uh, go to the user repository. So when we try to save the user, we need to do that inside the try catch statement. So, and if this one has an error, we will print this error in here inside this catch part. So we are trying to print that error in here, error. So I'm going to just send it again like this. When we print this error, you can see this error code is a 23505. So this means when the username already exists inside database, like if error code, this means throw new conflict exception and existing username. And if not, there will be just a throw new or internal server error. So if we try to uh, make the user with username 1 again, so now we can have a better message existing username as we type into existing username. So thank you for watching this video and see you later. Hello my friend. Today we are going to encrypt our passwords. So at this time, when we create a user, the current password is stored in the database as it is. So if we see our database, just this one is just a plain password. This one is not actually ideal because anyone can see their password. This needs to be decrypted. So we will implement the part that encrypt the password and store it. Uh, so to encrypt the password, we are going to use the bcrypt.js module. So we are going to install that first. So npm install bcrypt.js and save. So after installing this module, we want to know how to store password in database. So there are many ways to store the password. So first way is just to save the original password. When we type the 1234, we can just put this 1234 inside the database as we did so far, like this, just password 1. But this one is the worst case. We actually don't have to do like that. The second way is we just encrypt the password with encryption key. Like this one is a two-way. Like we can actually encrypt the password and then we can decrypt it. And when we encrypt it, we need to use the encryption algorithm and encryption key. So if we come in this website, we want to text to encrypt 1234. We want to encrypt it. We get this encrypted text, and we also want to decrypt this encrypted text to this 1234, so we can encrypt it and decrypt it. So this one is two-way, but when the encryption key is exposed, the risk is high because the algorithm is mostly open. So this one is not that ideal because this encryption key is exposed. Yeah, you can actually decrypt it really easily. So the next way is we can hash the password. But when we hash it, this one is a unidirectional, so it's not two-way like that. If we hash it, we cannot decrypt it. So if you come in this website, I'm trying to hash the 1234. So I get this one, but I cannot decrypt this one into the 1234. So this one is quite different from this above one, and this one looks way safer than this one. But this one also has a problem. There is a rainbow table. So if we see this, what is this rainbow table? A rainbow table is like the big data table. Like there are some password many people use, like the 1234 or let me in or just any easy password. So this one becomes a key and this one becomes a value. So they put so many this popular password inside a database and that becomes a rainbow table. So they can just compare it. So like A user password is 1234 and this one, the hashed value is this one. And but B user's password is also 1234 and that one's hashed value is the same as that. So this one is not that secure either. So how can we um, solve this problem? At this time we can use this sort. That means when encrypted, sort is added to the original password and then encrypted with a hash. So this one is we are still trying to hash it, but we put the sort. Like a sort is a unique text. So when we try to 1234, but after that we can just put any sort. but this sort needs to be the unique, so it is like that. A user get this value, so we can store this one inside database. And even though B person has the same password 1234, but the sort value will be the different like that. So this one is different. So it is way better way to store the password inside database. But if we want to use this way easily, we can make this bcrypt.js. So that's why we are using bcrypt.js. So by using bcrypt.js, you can see this source code. First, we are going to generate the sort. Our sort needs to be unique. So sort, we need to generate the sort here, and then using the sort and plain password, we are going to hash them so we can get this hashed password. We put the plain password and the sort together, and then we are going to get the hashed password, and we put this hashed password inside the database. So if we come to our user repository, when we uh, get the password here, and we first need to import the uh, bcrypt.js from the bcrypt.js const salt and await bcrypt and generate salt and const hashed password and await bcrypt and hash and password and salt, and we need to put this hashed password in here. So now we are trying to create the user again. So we need to change this username into username 3 and try to send it. First we need to run our application again, npm run start dev, and then click this send again. So we come to our database and refresh it, so you can see this is hashed password. So thank you for watching this video and see you later. Hello my friend. Today we are going to implement the login feature. So far we've just made the sign up feature. So now it's time to do for this sign in. So sign in is way easier than sign up. We are not going to do the encrypt password like that. Just so we can find the username inside the database. If there is a user we want to log in, we need to just compare the password. The password we give from the client and the password that is inside the database. If that is correct, we can just log in. That's what's going on inside this service. So when we compare the password, we are going to use the bcrypt module again. So come to our text editor and then user also service in here, async and sign in and us credential detail and us credential detail and promise and string and const username and password and us credential detail and const user and await this user repository and find one with username. If we found that user, we will try to compare the password. But first we need to import the bcrypt. Bcrypt compare. We need to put the plain password that comes from the client and then user password that is inside a database. And then if that password is correct, so we will log in success. If not, the password is incorrect, throw new unauthorized exception. A login fail. And we also need to go to controller, us controller, and we need to make that handler a post a sign in, and the sign in body a validation pipe, and us credential, and us credentials DTO, and promise and void a string return this us service, and sign in and put the us credential DTO. So we are going to test it. So we need to use this post request and localhost 3000 and us and sign in. And we need to give the username and password, but I'm going to just bring this one, username and password. So here, so we are trying to log in with username 31 and password 1. So yeah, we got the login success response, but if we change the password 2, so we can see login fail. So thank you for watching this video, and see you later. Hello my friend, today we are going to talk about the JWT module. So this time, when you log in, you need to generate a token for the logged in unique user. So to generate the token, a module called JWT is used. So take a look at the JWT module. So first we want to know what is JWT. So JWT is JSON Web Token. So JSON Web Token is an open standard that defines a compact and independent method for securely transporting information between parties as JSON objects. This information is digitally signed, so it can be verified and trusted. To put it simply, it is a useful module to use when delivering information safely or to check user privileges. So if you see this token made by this JWT module, so this red part is the header. Header contains metadata about the token, like the type, hashing algorithm, and the second part is the payload. So you can put any data, but that doesn't have to be like sensitive, because anyone can see this payload. So usually people put the user information and the expiration time and subject. And this last segment is the verify signature. The last segment of the JWT is the signature used to verify that token was signed by sender and has not been altered in any way. Signatures are generated using header and payload segments, a signature algorithm, and a secret or public key. So by using this payload and this header and payload, we can make this verify signature. So by using this part, we can verify this token is valid or not. So this one is the important part. So we want to know the JWT usage flow. So when user log in, if the user login is successful, we need to create a token. So when we create a token, we need to use the payload and the secret text. You can use any secret text you want to. So by combining them, and when we combine them, we need to use hashing algorithm. So we will make this token. So after making it, we need to put that token inside the token storage. It can be local storage on cookie or any part if we can store it. So when the user and when client send a request to the server, like when on user admin user want to see a post that only admin can see. This is about the authorization. So when sending a request, put that store token in the header and send it together. Just when make a request to server, we also put the token inside that request. So the server uses JWT to generate the token and compares to two. So I said this part is for the verifying this token is right or not. So first, by using this part, inside this server, we need to verify that token is right or not. And then by using this payload, inside this payload, we get this username. So by using this username, we can find out this user is an admin or not. So this user is admin, we can let this admin user to see that post. Or if not, we need to occur the error. So this one is a process of a comparison, like the how we can verify this token is valid or not. So if this server get this token, server put this part in here, and then server also try to generate this part by combining this header and the payload. So if this one and this one is same, it means it is valid. But if this generated valid part, signature part is different from this one, that means this token is not valid. So we need to occur the error. That's what is about the JWT. So thank you for watching this video and see you later. Hello my friend. We are going to generate token using JWT. In this time, we will create a token using the JWT module we learned last time. However, we will also use a module called Passport because this module makes the process of authentication and authorization much easier. So we can only just use the JWT, but we want to make this process much easier, so we need the passport. So there are a lot of modules we actually need to install. So that is Nest.js JWT, Nest.js passport and passport JWT. So we come to our text editor, npm install Nest.js JWT and Nest.js passport and passport JWT and save. After installing them, and we actually need to register JWT module in our application. We want to use this JWT module inside our application. So when we want to use it, we always need to register them inside a module. So we put it that inside the us module. We are going to put the JWT module and register, and we put this secret and secret 1234. You can just put any text. This one is for this part. When we make the token, we need the secret text, and this one is this one. And we also need sign options and expires in. This one is this one means this token is only valid in 1 hour. Or you can just give any value, any time in here. So if you come in here, so secret, this secret text used to create tokens. You can enter any text, and expires in, token become invalid after a set of period of time. 60 multiplied 60 means that this token will no longer be valid after 1 hour. So we also want to register the passport module in the application. So we also need the JWT module and also passport module. So, and when we register this passport module, we also need to specify the default strategy. So as a default strategy, we are going to use JWT. So we need to put this JWT in here. So come to our uh, us module here, passport module, and register default strategy JWT. So now we can use passport and JWT both inside our application. And now it's time to generate token using JWT when login is successful. So come inside our us service. Here, when our login is successful, we need to create a token in here. Create token here. We actually need to use the JWT service, JWT module. So to do that, inside this service, so we need to do injection for that JWT. To do that, private and JWT service and JWT service. JWT service comes from this JWT module. We need to create a access token, await this JWT service and sign, and we actually need to put the user name here uh, as a payload. So when we create the token, we can put username and role or any other things in here, and we combine them together to make the token. But for me, I'm only gonna just put username in here, username. But it is better to just define like this payload, just a username like this. It is way better. And then put this payload here. And when we use this sign method, this one use this secret. So we are going to return this access token, and we need to change this return type will be the access token, and this will be string. And we also need to put this one here. We also need to change something inside this controller because we changed this method inside the service. We also need to go to controller. You can see this error. This one because of this return type. This one is access token and string. So now we can try to sign in, and then we will see whether we are. First, we need to run the application, and then we are going to sign in again. Login fail. Slides. Maybe because of the password. Oh, now you can see this access token. We can create the token when the login is successful. So thank you for watching this video and see you later. Hello my friend. Today we are going to get user information after token authentication using passport and JWT. So if you come in here, I'm going to talk while looking at this diagram. So first, when we try to log in, here I am user want to say hello, and if that login is successful, server generate token that include the user information because the inside the payload, I put the username. So after creating that token, we are going to send that token back to client. So when inside the response, we put the token in here. So after getting that token inside this client, we save that token in the cookie or local storage. And then when the client make the request again to the server, a new request with token again. So that inside that request, we will have that token. So that server decode the token, and so server knows the user information. So far we've done up to this part 4. So now it's time to do part 5 and 6. So what we need to do now are part 5 and part 6. So when sending a request with token, server checks whether the token is valid or not. And if it is if that is valid, so it checks whether the user is in the database, because we put the username in the payload, so we can check that user is in the database or not using the username in the payload. If there is a user, the user object is fetched from the database. If the user does not exist, an error is sent. So this port 5 and 6, I magnify them in here. Client send the request to the server, and inside the request, we put the payload and token in here. So by using this payload, we fetch that user object from the database. So this 5 or 6 part, if we see that as a code, source code, it will be like that. And this part is for checking that token is valid or not. And if that token is valid, we will get the user object in here. So if you see this injectable, so SJS can inject it anywhere. This service is needed via its dependency injection system. So by putting this injectable decorator, you can use this JWT strategy anywhere. And when we create this JWT strategy, we actually need to extend the passport strategy. So inside this passport strategy, we can make this JWT strategy. And we also need to inject this user repository because we need to get the user object in here if this token is valid. So inside this super, we need to put this secret or key. We can ask why we need to put the secret text again, because we already put that secret text inside the us module. In here we put it already, but why do we need to put it here? But this one is for the making the creating the token, but this one is for the validating, like the checking that token is valid or not. So the purpose is different. And JWT from request, this means we can find the token inside this header, this header as a value token. So we actually need to specify it, JWT from request. And in here, if this one is valid, the token is valid, we are going to get the user object from the user table. So we put this payload and username like that. So we go to our text editor, and we need to make the file name JWT strategy, JWT to red to G and TS. And we need to put that source code here. First, injectable decorator and export class JWT to redg extends and passport strategy, and we need to put the strategy. But this strategy is not from the passport. This one is from the passport JWT, because we are using JWT strategy. So you need to change it on from this passport to passport JWT. So we also need to inject the repository inside the constructor. Inject repository. This one is a user repository because we need to control the user entity. So private and user repository, and inside the constructor body, we need to specify super secret or key is a secret 1, 2, 3, 4. This one needs to be same as the one you define inside this us module, and JWT from request extract JWT and from us as a value token. And if that token is valid, we need to uh, bring the user object in here, and in here we can get the payload. That is the username for us. Const username payload and const user and user entity and await this user repository and find one and put this username to find the user. If user is not there and throw new unauthorized user, and if we have user we need to return the user. So now inside our request we can get the user object. So by using that user object we can do like authentication and authorization. So that is really well, but there is a more thing to do. That is the we actually need to register JW strategy inside the JW strategy we just created. This one we want to use this one inside auth module and then uh, board module in and any other module or inside our application. So we need to go to, so if you see here provider, we need to put JWT strategy, and even inside the export we put JW strategy. This means we want to use this module inside the different module, not just inside the auth module. So we put that auth module here inside the provider. We put JWT strategy, and even for export passport module and JWT strategy. So now we can use JWT strategy in any place, in any module. So now we can get user request inside request object. So we will test it. So we are going to make the one more just handler in here for the test. So name will be the post, and the path will be just the test, and handler's name will be us test, and then we can get the request object like this, and the request. So console log and request and request. So we are going to call this controller. So inside the postman, so post and local host and 3000 and us test. So I'm going to call it. Oh, this uh what was not us test. It's just test. So I have to call it again. So if we come in here, you can see this user object like this, but we cannot find any. I just a request. We can find just request object, but we cannot find any user object. Even though we are returning this user object in here, we cannot get any user object inside the request object. So how can we get it? So we can use this user guard. So maybe you are confusing. There are a lot of like a middleware inside the Nest.js, so that's why it makes you confused. So Nest.js has several middlewares. There are things that are treated as middleware, such as pipes and filter and guards and interceptor, and each has a different purpose and is used. Like a pipe is for the data transforming and the validation, and filter also has its own purpose. And if you see this guard is an authentication middleware. It tells the server who can and who is not allowed to transport, who is not transport or given pass. Like this is for authentication. So we are dealing with the authentication. So now we need to use this use guard. So we can just put use guard and also guard Oscar like this. We will try it with that. Inside this controller, that we put this use guard and OSGAR. OSGAR is from the that comes from the passport. We are using the passport, so that's why we need to put this OSGAR. So we are going to send this request again. Or you see this unauthorized. That means the authentication work is working right now. So we need to use a token to call this request. So first, I'm going to sign in here. I got this token. I need to put this token inside the header. So header as a bearer token. So we define it like this inside JWT from request from us header as a bearer token. So header as a bearer token. So we need to put the token in here. So I put it and then I'm going to send it again. So now we are not going to see that unauthorized error, but and we also see this log. We print it in here, this request. Inside this request object, we can see this user object, ID, username, and password. So thank you for watching this video and see you later. Hello my friend. Today we are going to create custom decorator. We actually never used the custom decorator so far, so we are going to make this very simple custom decorator. That feature is to return the user object, this user object. So in our last video we already just returned this user object, but when we return the user object we need it to be like request and user like this. If we do like that, we can return it, but it is also good to make the custom decorator just to get only this user object. So how can we do that? So we can just use it like that. We will use create param decorator. So to get this request object, we will get this context that comes from create param decorator and then switch to HTTP and get request. So inside this request object, we can see this one. So if we return request and user, we will only get this user object. So come to our text editor and we will make the file name get user decorator and ts, and in here export and const get user and create param decorator and data for first parameter and then context. So first request and context and switch to HTTP and get request, and we will return a request and user. So we will try to use this get user custom decorator when we just that use in here, that use in custom get user decorator. So user decorator and user and put the user in here. So I'm going to send the request to this handler. So do it, and then we see, you can see this one. We can only see this user object in here. So we made this custom decorator well. Yeah, thank you for watching this video and see you later. Hello my friend. Today we are going to make a feature to allow only authenticated user to view and write posts. So far, anyone can view the boards and anyone can create the board. But that is not actually ideal. We need to authenticate user for creating and viewing the board. So that is what we are going to today. So giving user access to posts. So import the authentication module from the board module, as the module related to authentication must be usable in the board module. So for the authentication, we are dealing that only inside the auth module, but we want to use that auth module inside this board module, so we need to import it, this auth module inside the board module. So come to our board module here. We need to import the auth module inside this board module, and we need to use the use guard and as a guard to grant access to the post after seeing if this person makes the request with the correct token when making the request. So we use that use guard inside this here, like when we are calling this auth test handler. So we need this use guard and auth guard for this board module. So if we go to board controller, we can put that auth guard and use guard like this. So this one apply only this handler, but we want all handler here to be applied. So we can put this one above this class, board controller class. So we are trying to call this get all board without the token first. Localhost is 3000 and board. I'm going to send it, but you can see this unauthorized. Now, this because we don't have a token inside the Valor token here. We first need to sign in, and we need to get the token, and we need to put that inside this token here. Send it. Yeah, we can get all the posts that is inside a database. So thank you for watching this video and see you later.